Paris as being like the fat friend. And this is just the language people use. Like it wasn't, you wouldn't really say that these days, right?
No.
And then she lost all of this weight and it was like, oh, you know, her life magically changed and look at all the success she's got now because she's lost all this weight. And she got very small. And she's quite a small human. I'm like 5'1", I'm quite small too. And I was like, that's it. That's my idol. Like that's who I'm going to look up to. And I just remember like Pinterest boards filled with Nicole Richie.
And you can move it.
Yeah.
You can like,
These
if you want to sit back.
Cool. Oh man.
Nah, I think I'm happy you like it.
Dude, I'll show you mine and then it will make so much. And because I've been doing my podcast for over a year now.
Yeah,
and
right.
you'll be like, oh, okay.
Nah, but we've kind of already started anyways. I'm like.
Amazing.
But I mean, first of all, thank you so much for coming on. I think when I first saw your page, I was like, I really like what she's doing because when I first started my fitness journey, I was just looking at that top 1% of girls who were like, everything's just tight and right. It doesn't make any sense. And I'll do that pose. You know that one with the butt out?
The hip hop, yeah.
Hip hop. And I'm like, what's going on? Nothing is sucked in. It doesn't make any sense. Yeah. And then like the more research I started doing, I'm like, oh, okay. So there's either like underlying diet issues that they're going through. Some people are on like PEDs as well, like all these things. So when I saw yours, I was like natural, no bullshit. And also like what you're saying with, you know, like helping women, like empowering them through their bodies, your story as well. I'd love to talk about that.
Amazing.
And also a recovering perfectionist.
Yeah, man. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Thank you. So, so just initially, like when I was like reading your story, like you're talking about how, you know, that 15 years of just pretty much hell. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And it's something I fully relate with as well, because I think maybe it was that 2000s era where it was just like stick thin. Anyone who was called fat on America's Next Top Model was like a size 6 and you're like, what's going on? Yeah. So like, could you tell me more about that?
Yeah, dude. So I just turned 35, so I'm a little bit older, but the same sort of scenario, you know, that early sort of 2000s period. So I was like with the Spice Girls when I was like 12, and we found out later, I think a couple of them have admitted to having eating disorders back then, and they weren't portrayed like that at all. That was the ideal. And then we moved into that heroin chic, the cocaine chic or whatever, and it was like, Kate Moss was big even in that 2000 era for us.
Right.
And the Victoria's Secret model, and Nicole Richie was someone, I don't know if you
Nicole Richie and Paris Hilton like them.
Because Nicole went from being on the Simple Life.
Yeah, Simple Life, yeah.
Paris as being like the fat friend. And this is just the language people use. Like it wasn't, you wouldn't really say that these days, right?
No.
And then she lost all of this weight and it was like, oh, you know, her life magically changed and look at all the success she's got now because she's lost all this weight. And she got very small. And she's quite a small human. I'm like 5'1", I'm quite small too. And I was like, that's it. That's my idol. Like that's who I'm going to look up to. And I just remember like Pinterest boards filled with Nicole Richie. And I'm just like, this is who I need to be happy. And I was like, man, when you're 15, 16, there's a lot happening. Like there's a lot happening. There's a lot happening in your brain. You're trying to figure yourself out.
Yeah.
School's a bit weird at that age. Yeah. Everyone's a bit weird.
Yeah.
And so I think it really just gave me something like to focus on and start controlling. And I think we also had a situation where one of my friends came back over like summer break and had lost like 10 kilos and her popularity skyrocketed. Yeah.
Yep.
Have you got a similar story or something?
It was mine. It was mine actually. But like, I mean, I don't want to interrupt your story, but like I was like 110 kilos. Like that was like the peak of like where I got. I mean, I'm tall, like you saw, but like once I lost 40 kilos, the world 180%. Like it was like 180 degrees, sorry. Yeah. And it was, people were opening doors for me. People were giving me free shit. And then all of a sudden, all the guys who never paid attention now, they're like, hi. I'm like, oh my God, is this what it means? Literally nothing's changed on the inside.
Yeah.
Even now, I still have that like fat girl sort of like mentality of that insecurity, the still crippling insecurity sometimes where I'm like, I'm still picking a size 12. And I'm like, even though I'm this size, and even still thinking about size is just a massive mindfuck. But like, long story short, that my life and how people perceive me completely changed. And I just realized how superficial the world is, you know?
Yeah.
So even now, in a way, it's sort of like how you're saying popularity goes up, everything. It's like you kind of also start to resent that because you're like, they don't give a shit about me. If I gained weight again, they'll just disappear, you know?
It really does open your eyes when you go through that. And it's such an interesting experience too for people who have always had that, how life feels for them. It's a really interesting topic to start talking about.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was it for me. And I saw like, okay, so the popular girls are the girls that are skinny. I was athletic. I was small. I just had body dysmorphia, right? But they just seemed to be more popular. So I was like, I need to do that. And I spent years. So up until I think it was just before my 30th birthday that things changed for me.
Right.
Pretty sure that was the timeline events. But what happened was it sort of reached a fever pitch. So, you know, I'd gone through uni, got a job. I should be focusing and spending my time on those things because that was really important to me. But I was spending my time thinking about how can I eat less? How can I move more? How can I be, you know, way less? And then I decided like, well, the bikini trend hit in like 2014, 2015, 2016, bikini competition trend. I'd initially done a marathon in 2014 because I was like, by the time I cross the finish line, I should be skinny.
Wow.
I trained for it. I had liked running previous. I'm not a good runner, but I had liked it. I trained for it for 6 months. I did it. It was the Great Ocean Road Marathon, so down that way.
Wow.
And I crossed the finish line. I was like, I hate running. I'm never running again. I don't think I've run since. So that was 2014. And I was like, I don't look any different. Like, if anything, I probably look a bit worse. And so then the bikini competition trend hit Instagram. And I was like, this is it. It's a socially acceptable way for me to be really small and I'll maintain it. Once I do it, I'll maintain it without having any idea of what like bikini competing actually takes. 2016 physiques on the stage were very different to the physiques that we have now. The physiques we have now, so the physiques we have now, they're leaner and they're way more muscular. So in 2016, the bikini was almost like a bikini bot, like what you would think of like a swimsuit model.
Like toned but not ripped.
Toned but not ripped.
Yeah.
You know, there was definite rules. I remember reading the rules like no six-pack. You weren't allowed to have a six-pack, right? So it wasn't as lean as it is now. Today, it's far more lean to do this category. But back then I was like, yes, this is the secret and no one will question me. Like no one will think I've got a problem. No one will have an issue because it's for a competition and that's okay. It makes it okay, you know? So I did that. Now, I made a few mistakes. So one of them was I knew nothing about competing. I didn't have any friends that were doing it. I was still in my old job studying my PT cert and I don't know, I was sort of thinking maybe I'll move out of my old career and into PT. But I also signed up with a coach who I was her like first client. So it was me and my friend were her first client and I met this friend through the PT cert. So very new friends. Didn't realize she didn't have any experience coaching competitors, zero.
Okay.
Yeah. And then she also personally went keto. So for anyone who doesn't know what keto means, it means basically eating like maybe 20, 30 grams of carbs a day.
Right.
Really high fat intake, high protein intake. It's not fun. So to put into perspective, 20 grams of carbs a day would be a slice of bread. Yeah. And, you know, we've got veggies and fruits and stuff.
Which carbs too, which no one tells you about.
So just to put into perspective for someone who's not sure what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So we had done the prep and it was actually okay. We didn't tank my calories too much and I did fine. I ended up coming third and loved it. Loved it, right?
Yeah.
Then the reverse out was really tough. So she had me keto reverse dieting. So for anyone who doesn't know, after you do a competition, you get quite lean. Your hormones are all pretty messed up. And you have to do not a slow reverse, I wouldn't say slow, maybe 4 to 6 weeks to just slowly build your calories up and get out of it. If you just sort of lose the reins, you'll gain weight really fast. And again, I've heard people say, but what's wrong with that? And it's like, look, there can come with that some hormonal consequences. It's not great for health. So putting aside like fat phobia or any of that shit, it's not great for health to do it real fast. Like, let's just be real with that. Okay, but she had me keto reversing, which is it's really bad. My hormones are already fucked up. You're trying to keep me on 20 grams of carbs a day. And I couldn't for the life of me for years after go, why couldn't I do this reverse well? Because, spoiler alert, I gained 12 kilos in 8 weeks after that. So I'd gone from whatever I was weighing to the lightest ever, thought I'd got my dream body, and then within 2 months, 12 kilos heavier to be the heaviest I'd ever been. Okay. But I was like, why was that so hard? It shouldn't have been so hard. It was bikini competing. We weren't that lean back then. What was up? And then I went back through our emails, and her emails saying to me, don't increase your carbohydrates because you'll get fat.
Wow.
And it's like, she just was misguided. There's multiple ways to skin a cat. You can reverse diet someone on plenty of carbohydrates. We would have had to do it slowly, but I was eating a decent amount of food. Like, it wasn't actually the calories that was too low. It was the proportion of macronutrients. I couldn't just stick. So it's like if you're in the competitive mindset and you're, really trying to stick to something and you're blowing it by 20, 40 grams and your hormones are fucked, you're going to hit the fuck up button.
Yeah.
You're going to eat the whole pantry.
Right.
So it wasn't so much. I was talking to my partner about this the other day as well, and it wasn't emotional binge eating. It was physiological binge eating. Like my body was wanting to get me back to a body fat percentage.
Like survival, right?
I could sustain health, right? And that was a nightmare. So at the same time, I had left my old job and had just started on the gym floor as a trainer. So I'm a brand new trainer, semi-perfectionist, and I'm just like, I'm a fraud.
Yeah.
I can't control my own body, and I'm trying to, at this time, I'm trying to help people lose fat. That's what most of my clients wanted to do when I was new. I'm trying to build my business. I have no integrity. I have no credibility. I can't, control my food. I'm really falling out of love with training.
So what made you want to personal train? What made you even want to get into that?
Yeah, so interesting. So I originally did law, so I went to uni for that. I was working in personal injury law for about 5 years. And about the third year in, I was like, I am so stressed. And I had like my best friend and her partner, they're still at the same firm.
Yeah.
So it was great. Like I had friends. It was so fun. The people there were fantastic. But I'm quite a nice, agreeable, like
Right.
I'm not a fighter.
Yeah, right.
And you got to be cutthroat. Like we were acting on behalf of WorkSafe. So
Oh.
everyone hates you, but then you've got to fight with people. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it just didn't suit my personality type. So I was extremely stressed all the time. I had actually really bad anxiety towards the end. And I was loving I was training at a local YMCA in Footscray. So it was like a hall with a few machines and it was just fun. And at the time, it was all based around being smaller. Like that's all I wanted to do. But at the same time, it was fun. And I was like starting to lift dumbbells. Like I, wouldn't pay for a personal trainer because they're too expensive.
Right.
But I was seeing some progress in like my strength and that was really cool. And I was like, shit, I'm struggling with my mental health. This is no good. And so then I started getting interested in like mental health and mindfulness and all that sort of stuff. So I don't think it exists anymore, but then I started a graduate diploma in wellness at RMIT.
Okay.
So what happened was I was struggling a little bit because I was doing that and I was doing the full-time work as a lawyer. And I was like, I'm very stressed and I'm doing this uni thing on the side. And I think I only did a year and then I deferred for a bit. But in the time that I deferred, they actually cancelled the course.
Oh.
And like it was a fun course. It was like positive psychology and meditation and mindfulness and all that sort of stuff.
That sounds nice. That sounds really good.
Maybe it's come back. It's
like RMIT, please bring it back.
Yeah. So they actually ended up giving me the qualification is a graduate certificate in wellness because I'd done enough units or whatever to do that, but not the full grad dip. But through that, I was like, okay, so these are the things that we can implement for our mental health and to help me a bit with my anxiety. But then I also was like, well, I love this fitness thing and I can do that on my own because I'm super introverted. I have my friends I've had since high school or primary school. So close-knit, it can be a little bit hard for me to make friends. My friends are my clients. It's just what happens, right? And so I was like, this fitness thing I can do on my own. I don't need a group. I don't need a team or whatever. So that's how I started to get into it. And I was like, I can't keep doing this legal thing because I'm not the personality type. It's the stress is too much for me.
Right.
But I would love to work in some kind of health area, and I love the gym. So I was like, you know what, I'll do the PT cert, maybe just for myself, maybe to see if I could transition out. So I started that thinking maybe I would last a year or more at my job. But then I got into bikini competing, and then my anxiety just got so bad. Like,
from what? Like what?
Just the stress. So I just, for some reason, just dealing with like handling cases worth multiple millions got to me. And it's not my money, you know. I know it's just like, if I make a mistake, there's a lot of money on the line, and I couldn't handle that pressure. I just couldn't handle the pressure. And it got to the point where I was like, I remember walking up to the train station one day, and I couldn't physically walk up the steps. I was standing at the bottom of the stairs, and I was like, I can't even go, you know. So I went home, called my mum. She was like, I think you need to go GP, like see psych or whatever. That kind of made things worse at that point in time. I just felt like I was like rehashing trauma. Like, it wasn't a great experience. But from then I was like, look, I'm doing the PT, so I really like that. Financially, I was doing okay. It was a little bit scary because I just moved into my house. But I was like, I'd had heaps of leave to be paid out. So I was like, I'm just gonna resign, finish the PT cert and fucking go. Like, no plan B. Like, no plan B. So you can see, right, all in that year, it was like I quit the legal job in May. I finished my certs in August, and I started my business in September, but I competed in September, and then gained 12 kilos. So it was all in the 1 year. So it was try by fire, dude. So when I say I hit rock bottom, I hit rock bottom. And then my relationship of 4.5 years broke down within 6 months. So it was just like,
and it's so crazy that's usually what like your life needs that to happen for you to really take that next step. Where everything you thought that was your identity is just like, nope, start fresh. You need a new like a new cycle of life. And
it's really interesting. It's something I think about often. I don't want other people to have to go through what I went through. It was horrible. And yet at the same time, it led me to where I am. And within months of getting into the new job, I just couldn't believe it. My stress had gone from 50,000 to like -2. And, you know, I was like, how, you know, like, I'm running my own business. I'm loving what I'm doing. I can't believe I get to work with these people. Like, these are my clients now, not who they were. And I was like, it's a very big difference working with women around my age to, you know, get healthy and improve their mental health and all those sorts of things. Because a lot of the time, a lot of people are in fitness to you know, inside and out. And I just think for me, it kind of all had to crash and burn to just slingshot me out. Because especially with my food and eating, I then approached my coach in early of 2017. My current coach, I'm still with him now, so it's been like 6 years together.
Nice.
He said to me, because I couldn't control my eating, he was like, we're not dieting for at least 6 months. It's not going to happen, and we're going to actually put you into a growth phase. So I'm at my heaviest, and I have this coach saying, not only are we not dieting, you're going to get jacked. Like, we're gonna build your food up.
And would you say that was more of a bulk sort of thing? Or?
Sort of. I know, you know what, he wouldn't have told me this then.
Yeah.
But what would be going through his head, he would have thought, we're going to do just a conservative surplus to get her full, to lose the food focus, to have her feeling super well fueled and having fun in the gym and see some progress. That's going to take her mind off all of the shit. And then we can go from there. The way he said it to me was kind of like, you know, because you're going to compete in 4 years and we need to get but I don't think that's what – I actually haven't spoken to him about this, but I think he would have had more like, we just need to calm her down. And this is going to do it. And it did it. And it was because I was like, I got to my goal weight. So I had a specific number in mind for all those years. On the morning of the show, I weighed that number. And then, you know, the whole world falls down. And it's like that number – has nothing to do with your happiness. And this is something I would love to talk about today, which is like, have you heard the concept of be, do, have?
No.
So the concept of be, do, have is so many of us, and I do this as well, is we focus on when we have the thing, then we'll be happy. There's also the doing, which I also do. We have to do the thing, which will lead to the have, and then we'll be happy. The real secret is actually the being of the person.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
I've heard it described also as the winner, the worker, and the victim. The
Right.
victim is the same thing. When I have this, I won't start being a good person until people start treating me right. I won't bother being organized until
Like conditional. Like you have to make sure it has to happen first. Right.
Yeah,
Right.
and it's like with PT, I hear this sometimes where it's like, I'll get fit and then I'll get a coach. And it's like, trust me, you want the coach first and then, start with the coach for 6 months and then let them go, not the other way around.
Right, right.
And then we've got the do part, the worker again, which is the solution to everything is to work harder, which is very much instilled in me, my parents or my dad's especially. You have to earn what you get. So if you haven't worked for it, you haven't earned it. And it's kind of hard for me to be working through that. I'm working through it right now.
Yeah,
My natural reaction if something's wrong, work. Do something, make something move, take action. And it's not always about that. And one of the best ways that I've learned how to describe this is two people can go to the gym and be training and be following the same program and put genetics aside, get very different results because what's going through one person's head might be different to the other. So what's going through one person's head might be, this is so much fun. I'm very focused on what I'm trying to do. I have heaps of intensity. I have heaps of fire and drive. They're being like an athlete, really. The other person is like, I fucking hate this. I don't want to be here. My partner made me come here. I hate this shit. They're hardly going to do anything. Their intensity is not going to be there. They're going to get very different results. So just say same person, different mindset. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's where the B.
Right.
So it's like,
right.
Whenever we come up with these points of, when I get that bag, when I get that house, when I get that partner, when I get that job, it's like, who would you need to be to get that? And it's that. Fucking don't worry about the outcome.
Because usually once you actually become that person, you don't even think about that.
Right.
Because being outcome based means that, first of all, it's like one of the drivers of anxiety, perfectionism, because it's like, even like how you felt when you reached that goal weight. The first vision I got was a beauty pageant girl when she's like, she finally got the crown and then she faints. It's sort of that situation.
Yeah.
Where it's like, I've definitely used to have that mindset as well, where it's like, especially even with fitness, like I wanted, because around here there's like, like Doherty's, which is like bodybuilding, just raw metal everywhere.
I do like that gym. It's good gym.
But then as a beginner, like when I first started, I was like, right, because you just seen girls like like looking at you with like their pecs out, like, fuck yeah, who are you? It's like, hey, my name's Alex, like I don't fucking know. So I was like, no, I'm gonna go to any, like I'm gonna go to like more, those 24/7.
The big box gyms.
The big box gyms. Because then if I do something dumb, then no one's going to look at me. Like it was that sort of like insecurity. Look, obviously going to machines first, looking at that red thing that highlights the muscle. You're like, booty, done. And I'm like, so then after that, it's so funny. Like you're like, okay, once I get, and that's the thing, I was like, once I get fit, then I'll go to Doherty's, right?
Yeah.
Instead of actually just being like, no, everyone started there at one point.
Yeah.
And like even now in my journey, like I don't think I barely touch any machines, which is nothing wrong with them, but actually doing free weights and learning form, like what you said, getting a coach first, which is something I wish I did. Because then you can be doing the wrong form the whole time. So then you have to unlearn it. Your body, your mind-muscle connection has to change as well. And then you're just there like, especially like something like deadlifts. I think that's like one of the hardest things to do. Maybe, I don't know for you.
No. Yeah, I have horrible videos.
Actually, recording yourself is a good idea, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Please do. If anyone's listening, please do. All angles.
Especially the one from the back. Right there. Yeah, no. But yeah, like exactly what you said. I love how you it's not outcome based, because then because also those are out of your control, right?
Yes.
They're not something that, and then if they don't go according to your plan, which nothing ever does, that's when you break down. That's
Completely.
the wall falls beneath you and you're like, fuck,
Yeah.
who am I? What am I doing? Yeah. Am I defined by just this? Is this my identity? That outcome?
Yeah.
And is that what happiness means for me?
Yeah.
Because that's very fleeting. And that means you'd be like, don't go.
Yeah.
All the time. It's a terrible place to be, honestly.
Yeah, and it's like if someone's listening, they're like, okay, but what does B mean? Because I just want the how-to, the 7 steps to the B, right? This is how my brain works.
Right.
And I would say, think about your moral compass. Think about your values. Think about boundaries or standards that you have.
Right.
Think about character traits that no matter what happens, like you say, if things just go horribly wrong when it comes to you sleeping at night, you can still hold your head high. That's the being, rather than, again, because you might naturally go, oh, well, then I have to go to Doherty straight away. I have to run a marathon. No. It's the mindset of the person who would do something like that. So then if we're thinking of like the Anytime Fitness or the Doherty's example, it might be, well, maybe I have to be a little bit courageous. How can I be courageous today? And it could be in multiple different areas of life. Let's just start small. Maybe I go to a class that I wouldn't have gone to. Maybe I message someone on Instagram who's a coach who can help me with what gym to go. Like,
right.
Just like baby steps in terms of that character trait.
Right. And do you feel like gyms, like the type of gym matters? Do you feel like it's a... because there's these levels to this shit. It's
so interesting, man. So you're asking someone who has a home gym and 2 gyms.
I saw that, which is
So I would say as a beginner, gosh, it's a good question. I was going to say no, but vibe matters to an extent, and you do want to feel comfortable to an extent. Yeah, it's probably going to be really uncomfortable. It is. It took me like 2 years to actually get into a squat rack. So just to put that into perspective for people, because people say, oh, she's a personal trainer, she's competed once, she's going to compete again. It's never been a problem for her. Yeah. Like I was sitting on the floor at like an apartment gym trying to watch a girl like squat in a squat rack, going like, how did she put the the handles in? How did she do this? Is it heavy? I don't even know what is the bar heavy? Am I going to drop the bar?
Right.
It's okay. We all start somewhere. Like I think vibe matters to an extent. In terms of equipment and stuff, again, it's like with the basics, a couple of machines, a couple of dumbbells, you'd be fine.
Yeah.
Do get the help first. Why do I have 2 gyms, 2 gym memberships? And
please tell.
So for me, there's a leg press that I prefer at one gym.
Okay.
Because I'm quite short. And the leg press at the other gym, the stoppers actually, my legs are too short. And it hits stoppers and you can't change them. And it's like, yes, I could try and like get some padding behind my back, but there's none at the gym, so I'd have to bring the padding in and stuff. So,
Yeah, right. But then like with the gym that has the leg press you want, why not just stay with that? Is it just you're at that point of your fitness journey where it's like specific
sort of.
shit?
So the other gym has some amazing mirrors for posing practice.
Right.
So that has the good mirrors for the posing. Yeah. The other gym has a good leg press.
Right.
At my home gym, I love my home gym. I'm making it better now.
Yeah.
But my home gym will help save me some time because both of these gyms are about a 20-25 minute drive, and sometimes there's traffic. It could be 40 minutes to get to them.
Right.
So I have my home gym just in case I need to save some time.
Yeah. And do you want to make it? Do you want your home gym to be a full-time gym eventually?
It's interesting. I've just started considering it. So yesterday I moved some equipment around. I'm looking at getting some mirrors in there to pose in there as well because I probably need to pose daily.
Yeah.
And
I can't wait to talk about with the.
And I just started thinking if I can get a leg press in there because I've got a cable machine, I've got a squat rack, I've got incline bench, flat bench.
Nice.
I've got like the adjustable dumbbells.
Up to how much? Like 40, 50 kilos? Like, are you going all the way up?
No, man. So it's only up to 24 kilos, the adjustable dumbbells.
Yeah.
And then leg curl, leg extension. So it's like if I get a leg press in there.
Oh, you're sorted.
I'm sorted.
I think you're sorted. And it'll be, I think I've definitely considered that in the future. I think that the good thing about a gym, though, is it's the social aspect.
Yeah.
So it's like if you do want to go out and be around other gym rats, and be like, yes, I want to smell the sweat. Yeah. I want to kind of get inspired. Maybe if you're not feeling like up to, your at most best self. Sometimes you're like, no, I want to see someone who's just like killing it, you know? And then so then I'm inspired and I can do that. So in a way, this
Completely.
like it works for both.
Vibe does matter.
Yeah.
And that's where somewhere like Doherty's is pretty cool. The vibe in there is pretty cool. And it can be really inspiring. Like you said, the other thing for some people, for a lot of the clients I coach, they actually don't have friends who train. So
Right.
and some of them are geographically quite isolated too. And it's like it's nice to have an outlet where you're around potentially like-minded people. Like not always, but potentially at least someone who likes lifting and can understand what a PB is. Because otherwise people are like, yeah, cool. Like, okay, nice.
Cool story, bro.
Like, I don't even know if a 100 kilo deadlift is good. Like, is that heavy?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So yeah, vibe.
Yeah.
Vibe is a big deal.
Yeah, nah, I think it's also great, like what you're doing with like you know, like how you're talking about like with Nicole Richie and like kind of that era, and then kind of wanting to be super skinny. So also like Mary Kate as well. She got really tiny. I remember that.
Yes.
But now it's like being strong, like lifting, right? I mean, for me, it's only really changed in the last like 18 months that I've started really looking at weights, but heavy weights, right? Because we're used to being told that light five, you know, I just want to tone.
Yeah, right.
You know,
careful that you don't lift too heavy.
Yeah, and then also just that misconception of thinking our genetics are crazy and that we're gonna bulk in 2 weeks after lifting like heavy. Which once you actually start lifting heavy, you realize how much respect you have for the people who like yourself, where you're like, I've been doing this for years and it's still learning journey. I'm still developing. Like I still have certain muscles that are just not there yet, But then, you know, if you flick through Instagram and you see that, you actually realize it's a portal of like, how do you say it? Like a portal of just.
Do you mean like the top 1%?
Yeah.
What you're trying to say?
And it's not, how do I say it? It's like unrealistic because when you actually go into the real world and see how real people look like without the perfect posing, I think that's when you, I mean, also when you go to a gym, right? You're not seeing that. And I'm not saying, no, I want to be that top 1%. I just want to be healthy, strong as fuck. And that, but you inspiring women to lift and what you're posting on your Instagram page as well, which I'll put the handle as well on here.
Thank you.
And also your glam body program as well. I'd love to talk about that and what inspired that, because that's also something that is, how do I say, like, not, I don't know. I can always tell when someone's just selling to sell and who someone's selling because it's something they really believe in. And I would like to see how like that all came together. And because you said after you started training and then.
Yeah, for sure. So when I first started as a PT, I was working like as a contractor with a company, and I only left them halfway through 2021, halfway through last year. So when I left them, very, very briefly, there was some like, I guess, creative differences. So I really wanted to go down this female route.
Right.
And I really wanted to make sure we were catering for the girls who, I don't know if you guys know who are listening, but like, you know, like the Gold Coast vibe, very fitness influence.
Okay, yeah.
You know, and it's a full click and amazing. They're doing great, right? But some of I feel like, especially some of the girls around Melbourne, it's a very different vibe to the Gold Coast vibe. And not everyone wants to do that. Not everyone wants the fake tan. Not everyone wants all of the matching sets all the time, right? Not everyone wants to be like that. And the kind of women that had gravitated to working with me, especially people who resonate with me online, are kind of like my former self, which is like high achieving, perfectionist, pretty bad body image issues, right? I can't work with women who have eating disorders, or I can, and I do, but they have dietitians and psychologists, right, doing the nutrition. So I'm just helping them with their training programs. But I was noticing the women who were really resonating with me were wanting to just stop dieting for a period of time. They still had physique goals. They want to be strong, but they just wanted to let that go because it was taking over their life and they wanted to eat more. And yeah, to be fair, like it's not the popular selling point. The popular selling point is the get shredded quick. And I was like, I don't care. I know the impact it had on my life, and I know there are women out there who need what happened to me, who need help with that.
Yeah.
That's who I want to help. I want to help those women.
Right.
You know? And it's
right.
like, yes, I still coach for fat loss. And yes, some of these women, a year later are like, hey, I'm ready now for a fat loss phase. And we do that. I've got no problem doing fat loss phases with people. But a lot of women are just wanting someone who has been through this themselves and who has legitimately come out the other side. Because this is something that does grind my gears a bit, which is the pretending you've come out the other side. And this is where we can start to go with, let's just, you can't have any nutritional education, just listen to your body and all of those sorts of things. And it's like, I'm not a black and white person. I'm very nuanced. And it's like, I think when we truly have come out the other side, it's when we can still coach for fat loss, when we can still do a deficit phase ourselves. We can do growth phase. We can do whatever without any like emotional charge.
Yeah.
And I think that's when you know someone has really let it go and they're really out the other side. And that's how, my coach is fine, but that's how I want my coach to be. And that's how I am coaching these women, from someone who truly has no emotional attachment to this. Because if I was still like scared of fat gain, if I had a client who was maybe we're in a maintenance phase and for whatever reason, she was gaining a little bit of body fat, just say she's eating in a slight surplus, I could be panicking. Stop. Yeah, right? But fucking, it's not a big deal.
Yeah. It's not. It's not, and it's so true, because you reflect where you are in your journey to your client, or even to your friends, to your partner, everything. Like, if that's your insecurity, you're gonna make that happen. But also, how you saying, like, those quick programs, 4 weeks summer body program, and people love the get rich or get fit quick shit.
Yeah, it's still outcome. It's outcome. Yeah. It's, I don't want to have to be any different. I just want to get this quick thing, and because I think that's going to make me happy. I think that's going to be where the magic is, and it never is.
And it's actually funny because now we're getting into summer, right? And that's when these programs are getting really prevalent. And also that stress, like even now in the gym, like, it's like, where did all these people come from? Like, and how do you sort of coach women around this time when it's the high, there's a lot of pressure to look a certain way? Most of the time, I think we'll be in bikinis maybe once the whole summer, but we still want a bikini bod, you know? Like,
Gosh, it's so funny you say that, because I think the kind of person that comes to me is not really thinking like that.
Okay.
So I actually don't have to deal with much. I have clients, of course, who have goals, and it may be for like a wedding, it may be for something like that. But typically there's like a vetting process before we do this.
Yeah.
And it's like you need to be in a place where I think that this is A, for the right reasons, but B, we're focusing heavily on character traits and your actions, as opposed to thinking this is going to be, a magic bullet. But again, I think I very much repel people who want that.
Yeah.
They know it's not happening. They know I'm not standing for any shit. Like, I'm not going to do stupid shit.
Yeah.
And then also the way I work with my clients, I give them like fairly in-depth like video check-ins every week. And it's just one of those things that would come naturally to me that I've heard from other people's experiences isn't the way they're conversed with their coaches, which is I'm very much focused on like, how did you think your week went? What's your language use around your food, around your training, around your progress? What's the data saying? And how's your, like, I call them lifestyle KPIs, sleep, stress, digestion, mood, all of that. Yeah. And so it's very, very much focused on that. And again, even for those women in a deficit and wanting to get physique outcomes, I'm never, ever going to override those basics just to get a result for a photo or whatever.
Right.
It's like if I see red flags in language, I'm putting a fucking halt to things. We're pausing.
Love that.
You get your shit into gear. And again, just the type of people that gravitate towards you. And I think this is why sometimes online coaching is cool, because people will be repelled if you're not giving off a vibe.
Yeah.
And that's quite natural. You can't really hide that.
You can't. Yeah.
People will see through it pretty quickly. So yeah, the women who come to me really appreciate me saying like, dude, this is bullshit. this sentence here that you've written is crap. We need to fix that. Okay. So I want you to, you know, this is your homework this week, like whatever it may be. When you stand on the scale, I want you to go, you know, this is what success means. It doesn't mean, you know, I have to weigh lighter or whatever. So it's just like little homework practices through that. But yeah, it's an interesting one. It's very different to when I was coaching on the gym floor for starters, where you're kind of taking everyone when you're first starting. And that's more of like, I was definitely getting more of the people who are like, I just want to lose, you know, 10 kilos in 4 weeks.
I don't care how I look like after that or after my wedding or after this holiday. Yeah, no, I think it's also the way you do it is a way that you can actually maintain it. It's actually sustainable. And I think that's why I also really enjoy strength training, is because you can keep doing this forever. And it's what are your thoughts on cardio? What and you know, the F45s and all of that? Like, where do you stand on that?
So a couple of different things, I guess. Cardio for cardiovascular health, super important, and I think people, especially in this gym bubble now of like, for cardio, should probably actually do more. Yeah, I do think, like, am I specifically doing any right now? No.
Yeah.
But I probably should be, to be fair. Even if it's just like a couple times a week, you know, getting my heart rate up a little bit, maybe 20 minutes. Really good for heart health, you know?
Yeah.
And
what about for like fat loss, or let's say someone wants to gain muscle, like, you know, body recomp, right?
Yeah.
Which, if people don't know, that's when you gain muscle, lose fat, right?
Yeah.
Simultaneously as well. So would you recommend that? Because I hear people say, no, you don't need it. Gain muscle, it increases your metabolism. So then you kind of will. That kind of works out, and also just kind of pay attention to your diet more than cardio. So
yeah, I'd like to take a much more zoomed out look than that. Yeah, and it's like, it's a bit of a fallacy to say if you're trying to build muscle, don't. We have to think of our health, especially when we're pushing our body weight up. We really have to think about our heart health, and you know, just doing say 2 20-minute sessions or of some sort of cardio to get heart rate up is going to do a lot of benefit for you in terms of your metabolic health too, and the way that you use energy. But in terms of impeding the muscle mass, it's really not going to do that much. And you can eat a little bit more then, you know, to make up for that. If you're not seeing the scale weight gain, just eat a little bit more. I think it's quite unhealthy to go for these long periods, especially when you're putting stress on your heart by gaining weight, because like, even for me, you start to push levels of health, to be fair. My asthma was getting worse during my growth phase. Very lethargic. Like, it's not fun. Like, it's, people kind of think, I think people who have restricted for a long time think of a growth phase as, oh my God, I get to eat everything every day. Trust me, once you're well fed, it's not fun anymore. Like, once you're well fed and you know you can have whatever you want because you're an adult and you can.
Yeah.
And you know, so yeah, I would say try to keep cardio in most of the time.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's really important. We do take that step back, and aesthetics, yes, I get that it's up the top of the list for a lot of people, but so is being able to like maintain your mobility and functionality and not be in a hospital bed.
Yeah.
So I would say I'm not the fuck cardio crew, and I was, I definitely was. So I've done a 360 or 180 on that topic. In terms of the muscle mass increasing your metabolism, it's true, it's very small.
Yeah,
it's only a few calories per day. A few. That's not correct. I think it's like 50 or something. It's hardly anything.
So you're saying that, like, because I don't know, from what I've read. I mean, it's not like I'm a crazy researcher, like going and looking at scholars and stuff, but from what they say that when you gain muscle, you might burn more cardio while you're doing cardio, but you actually burn more when you burn more outside the gym with more muscle, right?
Yeah, I totally hear you.
Yeah.
So at rest with more muscle,
Yeah.
you will be burning more calories than if you didn't have as much muscle. But how much is it?
No,
it's not enough to really concern yourself with it too much.
Right.
Like, it's something.
Yeah.
It's something for sure, and that adds up over time, right? So, but in terms of the benefit, again, we have to go back to people really wanting to like be able to eat more and improve their metabolic rate and all of those sorts of things. And I like to ask, like, why. Because sometimes there's still a restriction mindset. And it's like, I only want to do that because I feel so restricted. And it's like, fucking lose the restriction mindset then. Like, eat some more food consistently.
Damn it.
You know what I mean? And it's like, it's really interesting too. The more we eat, again, just conservative amounts every day, like eating at maintenance calories every day, we'll naturally fidget more, we'll naturally move around more. People don't realize that most of our energy expenditure is this NEAT, non-exercise activity thermogenesis. It's just us fiddling around and doing stuff like that.
Right.
And the more energy we give our body, the more we do these things. Like if we'd been doing this podcast and I was a couple weeks out of my show, really lean on little food, I would probably be just like this. I'd be talking really slowly. I noticed my walking speed just tanked. So I was coaching at the time, on the gym floor, new coach. I would have to sit on the floor while coaching PT clients because I couldn't stand. So you can see there.
And is that correlated with the body fat?
Body fat, yeah. Just conservation of energy,
Right.
yeah. Not enough energy coming in. I don't have that much body fat to provide me with energy during the day. So see, you go, oh man, it's not so
That's
much.
hectic.
It's not so much me building them. Like, yes, okay, it's going to give you some, but just consistently eat at maintenance for at least 6 months. It's going to change your life.
Yeah, and also because muscle is expensive, right? So the food that you eat has to be really nutrient dense food that is, and a lot of the times it's filling. Right? It's not that light little, I don't know, rice cracker that's going to like really give you those pecs that you've always wanted, like it's things that, because it's so expensive, the food, like even how I see food now, I mean, actually, I really like what you said before, where it's like, why are you saying that you get to eat more? Because I always tell people that. I'm like, lift some muscle, lift some weight, you get to eat so much more than before. But obviously that's definitely part of my journey and obviously transforming the way I look at food. Yeah. But even now when, what was it? I think it was right before I went overseas, I weighed myself and I'd gained 10 kilos, right? Yeah. And I was like, oh, don't go there. And like my eyes were twitching like, fuck, I need to go on the treadmill. That was the first thing I thought. I need to go and fucking run. And I need to cut carbs. Those are the two things. I don't know where that came from. And I don't know if it's the magazine.
Yeah, I was just going to say all of the magazine covers you've subliminally seen, mate. Yeah.
And it's just this like subliminal messages that we've been told, just, tiny throughout our whole like, pubescent years. And I'm just like, fuck, I am. And then I was loving the way I looked in the mirror, and then I looked at myself in the mirror again, and I was like, you fat rhino.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
And I'm like, what the hell? Yeah. And so now I'm just like, and maybe from that, what do you think of the scale? Like how, even for you when you're prep, how important is that? Because obviously my clothes didn't really change, just weight. I was just heavier because of more muscle.
Yeah, for sure. It's so interesting. Just a bit on that. It's like we're, look, I'm a company, I'm a business owner, I need to make money, sure. But a lot of these like, the diet industry is like, you're a problem that needs solving. So it's like, how can we make you a problem? How can we make everything in your life a problem so we can sell you the solution? Yeah. And then all of the magazines, all of the adverts, all of the whatever we're seeing is it's this thing that you need to get and it's going to change your life and all of that, right? So it is really, really interesting. I've been reading a good book, I haven't finished it yet, called More Than a Body. Okay. And it talks about how, especially women, there comes an age, typically primary school or so, where you start seeing yourself from an observer perspective, a person looking at you rather than you experiencing the world like this. You're constantly thinking, how are people going to perceive me? And it's like, well, they think I'm fat. Is this a bad angle? How do I, we used to say like skinny arms for photos. Fucking everyone put your arm out a little bit so you got a skinny arm, right? Like, oh my God. It's observer looking, and I'm not enough unless I am like this. And when you start to untangle that, and my philosophy, some people kind of laugh at me, but my philosophy on this is definitely, I refer to myself as like a meat suit. And it's like, I have my brain in here and my meat suit is amazing. It's mine, can't get it again. And it's allowing me, I say like passage through this life. It sounds pretty high level stuff, but that's how I see it. I'm lucky enough I can walk. Like I'm pretty lucky that I'm allowed, I can walk and I can move and do, this is really cool. And, even if I was in a wheelchair, I can still move through time in my wheelchair, right? Like I can still move around. And I think when you start to see your body from that perspective, like it's a vehicle to allow me through my life. You're like, what the fuck? Does it really matter? Does it, a couple grams, couple 100 grams? Like, it doesn't fucking matter. And then you're like, oh, but then Aimee, how are you doing like a physique comp? And it's like, fair enough. But when you're able to take the desperation around out of, I have to look a certain way to be enough. And it becomes, I fucking love training. I love getting stronger. I love like the art that a physique can be. It's a very different thing. It's like the person who has a lot of business success, it's not about the money for them. It becomes about creativity, innovation, impacting more people. Whereas some people will be like, no, it's got to be all about the money. The money's going to make me happy.
Right.
This person is like, quite frankly, I don't care if I go take my business bankrupt. We need to try this fun thing because it's just going to be the coolest thing ever. So this is how I see it. Coming back to your question about the scale, I just let my coach deal with it, man. Like the thing that really changed my relationship with the scale was that 6 months where he said, we're eating more, you're not dieting. The metric of success was my scale weight had to go up, and like conservatively, but it had to go up. So for perfectionist high achiever, fuck, if that scale's not going up, you're not doing this right. So I was like, shit, I have to eat all my food because if I don't, I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to lie about the scale. I'm not going to input incorrect data. I'm going to tell you the truth. If it's not going up, he's going to say that I'm not doing a good enough job. So that was really interesting. And then I started to see scale weight increasing as a sign of success, and I would get on and I would associate an increase with it's working. I'm building muscle. I'm getting like this is working.
Yeah.
And I think once you've done that, it just shatters everything else about like I have to be smaller to be worthy. It comes back to B. Character traits, I am doing something well. I'm doing something successfully. I'm doing all of those sorts of things. And so I weigh myself most days. Sometimes I forget.
Yeah.
But I have a data tracker. My coach and I, we've got 6 years of data on me. And
wow.
I just let him deal with what's happening with my scale weight.
Right.
I just let him tell me what's happening. I don't care. My job is to get into the gym. My job is to eat my food. My job is to sleep, recover. And we just let him do what he needs to do with my scale weight.
So then do you think, like you being a coach, do you think everyone needs to have a coach? Like maybe even initially on their fitness program, like people who are listening in and wanting to kind of get back in the gym or maybe try to recomp or anything. Do you think a coach is necessary, or do you feel like, doing those, because there's a lot of online programs that are already pre-recorded, kind of tell you what to do in the gym. There's some good ones, some shitty ones. Like, what do you think?
It's such a good question. I don't think everyone needs a coach. I think there are some times where it's really helpful. So if you can get onto some free podcasts, it's really hard to say who's decent though, because there's a lot of shit out there. And there's a lot of really popular fitness podcasts that are just fucking terrible. They're filled with shit.
What do you think of, I watch Mind Pump. Do you like Mind Pump? You don't like it? You got to tell me why.
This is exactly the one I was talking about. So they're just cherry-picking research papers to suit pretty trending topics. Not saying all of it is crap. Crap.
I love the fact that you say that, because it's also it's so funny you said that. I was actually just watching a thing because I was trying to see what shit they were talking about now. But it's also, it always just comes back to one answer, right?
Man,
muscle, right? And it's not really multidimensional at all, really.
Okay, a good rule of thumb, if you hear someone say, at the moment the evidence suggests, it depends on these variables, it's more likely going to be this, but then there's still circumstances where it could be that.
Yeah.
It's probably going to be decent information.
Right. So then how do you know, how do you navigate to know what data is good and what's not, especially for someone like you have experience, you know your shit, you have a coach, you've been tracking yourself for a long time, so you also understand your body very well, and you also now understand different kinds of women's bodies and mental states. Now coming into someone who's a complete novice and they're listening, they've blown up, they're huge now, right? So it's things like that where they're like, oh, you've helped me and my husband so much, or you've done this. In a way, they've sort of see them or other fitness podcasts similar. So how do you know what's real, what's not?
This is also a great question, because you know what? Those people, it might have changed their life for the better, and that was great for them. So it's the same thing. I'm sitting here going, look, from a perspective of a coach, that's not the people I would go to for my information. I follow people like Eric Helms, Alan Aragon, Lane Norton's pretty good, you know. I'm just trying to think of some other names, like some people don't think this, but Brad Schoenfeld seems to be okay, you know, pretty decent. So there are these people who have been in the industry for a long time, and they're doing the research. A lot of them are doing the research in the labs.
Right.
But again, they're using language like, at the moment the research is, at the moment the weight of the evidence suggests. None of it is, I'm also selling this supplement and blah, blah, blah.
Right.
They're also happy to go back on their word. They're also happy to say, I said this last year. There's a new paper that's out that actually says maybe not. You know,
right? So they're saying nothing certain. Because
it's not.
Information is evolutionary, really, and it's changing. Yeah, no,
we're learning more about hypertrophy now, but it's a lot of like, look, we think this, right? Now again, for the people who've had great experiences, you know, I was sort of talking about keto before. It's changed some people's lives. You know, so this is really important to ask yourself at any given time: how's it impacting your life? Genuinely, do you feel good? How are your health markers? Are you enjoying the process? All of those things. And if you're doing something that I said is stupid and it's working for you, it's working for you. Keep doing that. You know, if it's disrupting you, if there's anxiety, if there's stress, if you're not getting the results you want and you're frustrated, if something doesn't feel right in your gut. My coach told me that I can't eat fucking tuna on Saturdays because, like, I don't know, I'm just making up something, right? But if that doesn't feel right, question it and figure it out, But I'm never going to be that person that says, like, some of these things don't work, because if it's working for you, it fucking works. So you do you.
Yeah, no. It I like how you said that, because it's that's the thing about social media. There's always someone saying, so they're always debunking something else, and they're always doing this something else, like that. I guess I think also trial and error as well, right? Because you might think this has worked for millions of people and then it doesn't work for you, or and then for me, like maybe a certain way of eating works for me perfectly. But for someone else, it's not. But before I tried something else and it worked for someone else. So I think it's also, I don't know, I find it trial and error works, and trying, kind of like, I don't know, for me, like when it comes to, let's say, when I was looking for a therapist, I was shopping around, right? It's the same thing. Because that's part of your, that whole holistic approach to what works for you, specifically for you. So
It's very much, I like to come from a principles basis first. So I have an education component, an education portal that comes with my coaching, and it's very principle based, because once someone knows the overarching principle, so for fat loss, we need to be in an energy deficit. How you get there, you can skin a cat many, many ways, right? But I rather coach my ladies from that perspective, so they understand the principles and foundations, because then we can pick a tool that suits them at any given time, because those things that suit you can change. You know, you have kids, you don't have kids, job changes, geographic changes, things are different. But when you know the overarching principles, that's when you're not tied into any of these things like, oh, it's the supplement, oh, it's this coach, oh, it's the way she no, it's none of those things. To be very honest with you, doing very basic shit but every day for years will get you the much better results than like, oh, what's the latest research paper just said? Truly, the piece that almost everyone is missing is consistency. And people talk about consistency a lot, and to be fair with you, it's very rare personality trait, because people will, and again, like I've done this too in my past, but it's like we get excited and we peak and then we drop off the face of the earth, and then we're like, oh, we'll do it again, and it's like, this is really not how this works. Especially with physique, this is one thing I love about physique, is it's not like cumulative interest, whereas like if if we're thinking about cumulative interest, it's like you put money in, you could stop after 10 years and let the cumulative interest accumulate. With a physique, you cannot do that. You have to keep going. If I stop training now for 2 years, my muscle mass is slowly going to deteriorate. I fucking love that. I love that because you can't cheat that. You can't buy that. You have to, even people on PEDs, you have to consistently work. There's obviously a lot of effort that goes into building a physique, even with PEDs. And once you get the ball rolling, it may take very little sets per week to maintain that for sure. But you've still got to do something. And I love that you can't. Maybe it's that whole, we were talking at the start of the podcast with our like parents and hard work mentality. Maybe it's just that. Maybe it's like a trauma response that I can't get out of. It's like my little matrix. But I love that. I love that I have to show up. I have to show up whether I like it or not, if I want to, have this result. And then who does that ask me be? Right. It asks me to be someone who shows up and does things that they don't want to do.
They're going back to be, right?
It asked me to put aside the little teenager in my brain complaining and say, shut the fuck up, just do the work. Yeah. It asked me to not be perfect and to keep going.
But then where does discipline come in, right? Because discipline is not motivation. Motivation is emotion. Discipline is logic. So there's times where you're like, especially now, you're in comp, like sometimes you go like, I can't be fucked. I just want to eat this. You have to, in a way that is still necessary, but how do you still have compassion and discipline at the same time for yourself?
For myself. Yeah. Geez, it's an interesting one. Compassionate is also interesting because I think I'm very much my own harshest critic. I've been working with a psychologist this year to help me with like some CBT practices to ground me in the reality, because there is a voice in my head. You're not doing enough. You're not working hard enough. It's not enough. All the time. Yeah. It's pretty strong. Yeah. So I often bring it back to, again, like, what's your best today? What is your best today? And then I also know I have a bit more than that. So it's like, how can we stretch? There is also an element, potentially a bit of a sadistic element of how much can we push ourselves with these things. And for me, sometimes that can be, training when you don't want to. But for, work and business, it might be doing a live, back in the day, doing a live on Instagram when I'm fucking sweating buckets. That's a push. That's a push. Like, right. Come on, just a little push. Yeah. None of it is going to affect my mental health in a negative way or anything like that. Yeah. But it's like, I know you fucking got this. It's like, I don't know if you remember my situation at school. I liked, athletics or whatever. And it was like, you're in a race and there's someone next to you, but you're kind of like neck and neck for first place and you're like, rah! And you just run. That burning desire, that's fun for me.
And so do you like the aspect of competition? Is that why you're also in that?
Very much. So I during primary school and high school, I was a tennis player. Yeah. I love the competitive element of playing tennis. I did quite a lot of sport at school. I really do miss competition. And when I was in uni, I was only playing like casual tennis and it wasn't really fun. And it took me a little while to sort of think about what did I want to do and all of those sorts of things. And this is the one thing I like about with the bikini as well, is that there is that competitive element, which are really like pushes you. Like when you see other people just like, something, again, I'm not a robot and I don't want to say that we should ever put our mental health in jeopardy for these sorts of things, but it's really fun when you start to realize, oh, I've got more capacity. A way to explain this is I remember in like year 12 being like, oh my God, I'm working so hard. Then in first year uni, I was like, oh my God, now I'm working so hard. In my first year of my work, my actual job, I was like, oh, now I'm working so hard. And you're like, oh, I've got more capacity than I give myself credit for. And I think it's that, or realizing the capacity you have, like shit, I'm like, this is cool. Like, and also pushing stuff,
and also pushing yourself to a degree is actually quite interesting, because you're seeing a side of yourself that you've never seen before, right? Sometimes you could even it's a self-discovery journey as well. So as you're doing this comp, you might do the next one and be in a completely different mindset. You'd want the same mindset, but then you're like, oh, maybe I shouldn't do that anymore, or maybe I've pushed myself a bit too hard that now I can't train for like 2 days. So you're like, you're still trying to get to know yourself as well, to know, okay, kind of like training to failure, right? It's like, you shouldn't do it all the time, but you got to know where your limit is. You got to know where you have to go.
Yeah.
And then kind of take it back a notch so then you're really going to that full potential.
Yeah. I think, again, it's interesting. I think we've shied away from it a little bit, which again is fair enough, especially with lockdowns and stuff. So many people's mental health was put in jeopardy.
Yeah.
And there was this whole like backswing against pushing yourself hard. It was like, no, relax, do nothing, blah, blah, blah. Like, and I fucking get it. I get it. It's really useful information. And at the same time, it's also useful to push sometimes. So again, I don't like to be black and white. I like to be nuanced, but it's like, how can we let both of these concepts flow? If you're competing, you are going to have to pull back other areas of your life or else you'll crash and burn. This happens. You get very, very selfish. It's a very selfish sport when you're competing because it takes up 24/7. It's not like, look, to be fair, I haven't done like elite level powerlifting. I've done novice powerlifting, but novice powerlifting is like, yes, it's a 2-hour training session 4 days a week, but food, you got to fuel yourself for performance, but it's not like this, huge diet down and your sleep schedule. You have to take food. Like it's a very different kettle of fish. But yeah, I think it's just, again, it just keeps coming back to those character traits of like, if I can show myself that I can train to failure, maybe I can do the hard thing and ask for a pay rise at work. I've experienced that feeling of being a little bit intimidated, being a little bit scared, but knowing I have capacity for more.
Right.
And then where else does it feed off?
Right.
Into other areas of your life.
Yeah.
And that's where I like it. Where it's coming back to like, who do I want to be? How do I express that in all of these areas?
Yeah.
And sometimes you're going to get burned. It's fucking fine. We're human.
Exactly. And I think it's, again, going back to just kind of eradicating that perfectionism mindset. It's like there's no such thing as a perfect journey or a perfect, even like progress, right? People think progress is linear. Like even now, I'm like, even starting this podcast, I'm just like, girl, I'm going to do 3-4 exercises. I'm out of here. Mentally, I just can't. I need to focus on this. I'll be back. But then knowing that you come back. Same thing as like if you go off your diet a little bit, like let's say, and I don't even like saying diet, just like in terms of you've been doing really well, making sure your macros are well, like everything is like on point. But there's some days you're like, fuck it.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Yeah.
On the way back from the gym, sometimes I'm like, I want a donut. And I'm going to get a donut, goddammit. And it's so fucking tasty. And could you add 2 sugars to my latte as well? Thank you very much. And I'm like, la, 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 la. Instead of before, you'd be like, oh, fuck, I just canceled all those calories that I just lost in the gym.
Yeah.
Now it's like, no, I'll be back tomorrow.
Yeah.
Because it's a long-term thing.
Yeah. Absolutely. My perfectionist clients, I often have this conversation with them, and it's so cool to see some of them go through it where it's like there's going to be this moment in time where you're going to want to throw in the towel because it's not perfect. Your homework is to recognize that moment in time and go, I'm at the next hour, the next day, I'm still going to show up through ultimate discomfort.
Right.
It's going to feel really uncomfortable to do that if we're constantly in this black-white cycle. It's going to feel like awful in our body.
Right.
Like, this is your homework. Be aware and then continue and see what happens.
Yeah.
And doing this for 3-6 months, they're just like, fuck me. Like, I can't believe this. Work was really hectic this week and I did what I could with my food. I didn't go train, whatever. I don't care. And I'm just going to keep, next time I can go to the gym, I'm going to go to the gym. And it's like, this is how we start to get long-term results.
Right.
When we don't let everything, it's like a, Jenga. If we pull out one block and everything falls down, fucking your foundations were fit.
Yep.
Let's make sure we've got the good foundations, the decent foundation, so that we can pull multiple blocks out.
Yeah.
And you're still going, okay, I can't go to the gym, but I can hit my macros. Okay, I can't hit my macros, but I can hit my calories. Okay, I can't hit my calories, but maybe I can go to bed at 9:30 p.m. and have 2 liters of water. Whatever you can do on that day.
But also I remember you saying that like giving advice to busy women, it's also planning ahead, right? So like looking at your calendar saying, okay, well, I have maybe 2 birthdays and usually it comes to a certain time where like you can, like, I don't know if it's for you, but for me, it's like I hibernate and then all of a sudden there's just all this social shit in a row. And then you're like, I need to figure out what I need to do. Maybe instead of having my rest days on this day, I'm going to actually work out on my rest days because my rest days will be like on the weekend, So it's sort of like, in a way, because it's now part of your life, it's no longer like a substitute. It's you have to incorporate it. You're like, well, if I know this is coming up, then I'm just going to prep and meal prep that and make sure that I work out enough. So then I'm not like, because sometimes I'm like, I think I will be able to make it. I'll make it. Sunday morning, I'll make it. I'll do it. And then, you're just like, and you can't really, you're really tired. You're really exhausted from the week and then from socializing. And then, if there's like alcohol involved, which is kind of takes things downwards very quickly, which also I've realized alcohol, holy shit. Once you take it out.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, man. Like, I hardly drink. I probably drink maybe like twice a year, maybe like my birthday.
Yeah, right.
And
I
my
totally
partner's
get it.
birthday.
Yeah.
But yeah, dude, so planning is really important. Another thing I like to do with my clients is just say we've had a week and they haven't had social events for a while and they have 4 and everything is haywire. I like to have a look at the week and think about where did things derail? So what were the thought processes? What was the scheduling like? The reason why I like to do this is so we can learn again for next time. And when we have, I can't remember, there was some research study done where it was actually looking at rehab patients, but rehab patients who thought about potential obstacles coming up in the future and planned for them early, like, oh, what if the bus doesn't have a ramp or something like that. Like they planned ahead early. Their rehab was actually much more successful than the group of people who were going through rehab but didn't have a plan, didn't think ahead of obstacles.
Right.
So I like my ladies to go, because it's their life, it's their lifestyle. Like, where did this derail? What were the thought patterns? What was like the logistics of things that went wrong, so that when this happens again, we've got some answers, we've got some ways of getting around it. You already have like, I prepared the solution earlier to apply. And then you just end up with a little library of solutions. It's like, when this happens, I know I can do this and it's going to be okay.
Yeah. 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 And okay, so I want to talk about sort of, I mean, I mentioned it on the phone earlier yesterday, but just the whole fit at every size. What is your sort of thing on that? And I know it's sort of a sensitive subject because everything is kind of turned quite political lately. What are your thoughts? What do you think?
Yeah, when we start applying worthiness to health, we get into a big pickle.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think we definitely need to separate that. And I think when someone is talking about like fat acceptance or any of those sorts of things, and we're making it solely about worthiness, like, people don't think I'm worthy because of my weight and all of those sorts of things. I think we get into a complete pickle because of course you are. Like no matter what, we're all worthy. We're all worthy as human beings. We're all worthy of love. We're all worthy to treat people well and to be treated well. Yeah. Okay?
Yeah.
So I think that's a separate issue. I think people really get it wrong when they put worthiness and health together. It's not. Disabilities, all those sorts of things, same thing. You're completely worthy, so we can just leave that to one side. Your personal preferences, you do fucking you. If you love it, you continue doing it. If you love sitting on the couch, do that. If you love powerlifting, do that.
Right.
Do whatever you love.
Right.
Then we come to health, which, to be fair, is kind of like fucking numbers and shit, right?
Yeah.
There's no worthiness attached to it.
Yeah.
It's it's like
fact as well.
It's fact.
Yeah. And I think also the thing is that what I don't know about you, but when I look at health, there's all these things that I put as unhealthy. Not only obesity, but there's smoking. You could be ripped. You could have a smoking bod. You could be going to gym 5 days a week. You can be like hitting your PBs. But if you're smoking, like it's not, oh shit, it's gonna. Give me a sec. First podcast, hey? Check this shit. You actually look really cute. Thank you. That one's still going. Okay, sweet. And we're back. Yeah, like I put with the with that. So I put like there's obesity, there's smoking, there's I don't know, even
high
PEDs, high stress.
Yeah.
There's PEDs, there's all these things that I put all as unhealthy. So it's not just the size.
Yeah.
It's the lifestyle as well. Give me a fucking second. All right. Okay. Yeah. So what do you think with with that. Like, I mean, I'm really hesitant to just blah, but I guess I have to, just because I think it's absolutely bullshit. Like what they're telling, and it's also because I've been heavy myself, right? So I know it's not, right? I know it's not healthy. I know that my if I told you just the day in the life of when I was larger, it's not because of just the size. It was where my mental health was as well, right? So just coming from certain traumas that I've had in the past, I just emotionally was eating, right? But then also where my energy levels were, where my hormones were as well, it was just not good, right? As much as I was sporty, I played field hockey, I played basketball, I played all of that. But then after that, coming to Australia, 12-ish years ago, I was like, oh my gosh, there's like burgers everywhere, there's cookies, there's all of this. And I was still active and I was still walking around. I was still like, but it was just, I would sleep for like 12 hours. I would have crashes during the day. So in a way, after now, where I am now, of course, it's still a journey and I'm still trying to get there to a good place mentally. But I'm like, hell to the motherfucking no. Am I going back and saying that I was healthy in any sort of way? And also just from my occupation as well, there's so many things that come with I guess, certain lifestyles that we're ignoring because we're attaching worth to health.
Yeah.
So, I'm like, no, you really need to take care of your health in a certain way, because I have not seen anyone at an aged care nursing home at a certain size. I'm sorry. These people just don't, you're not getting there at any time soon. And these things that your life's going to get very complicated, especially once you hit your 50s. Life gets very fucking complicated. And I think that's when now you're like, are we going to still make this political? Can we really just educate people and say, lifestyle, everything is all up there, the same smoking, binge drinking, all of that, it's still up there with obesity. And can we just not start putting levels to what's healthy and what's not, and what's acceptable and what's not? Because if you see someone smoking, you'd be like, mate, cut that shit out. That's not good for you. But then if you see someone, I don't know, eating really unhealthily and eating more Western fried foods, we can't say that. And that's something I'm like, why not?
It's interesting. I think too, food is so it can be so emotionally driven for some people. Their eating habits are very emotionally driven.
Yeah.
And I think that's why those sorts of comments can impact people a lot.
Yeah.
It can feel out of control. I would say most people don't have a way of looking at food in a quote unquote healthy manner.
Yeah.
There's lots of restriction, there's lots of dieting, there's lots of, if I eat this, I'm a bad person, I'm still going to eat it anyway because I am a fucking bad person. There's a lot of emotion attached to it. Like you said as well, there's a lot of politicizing attached to it. I do think the anti-discrimination and inclusivity side of things is fantastic, again, with the worthiness, and people shouldn't be paid less because they're overweight, because I believe that's a true stat.
Okay.
We know this about good-looking people. Good-looking people get things, not easier, but there's more money. There's there's more opportunity. And a part of this is, look, to be fair, fucking hell, being human isn't perfect, and there's lots of imperfect structures and stuff like that. It's interesting with the health at every size. I haven't looked into this too much, but I think that there's actually some internal disputes happening with that.
Right.
I think that it's just from the original founder, I think it's gone off on a tangent. I think actually Hayes is now discrediting her. It's very interesting. Sort of just watch some YouTube the other day, so don't quote me. But it's interesting. You said politicized. I think unfortunately that's where it just gets picked up, and we can create a movement. We also love outrage culture. Everyone loves to be outraged about something as well. So there's that. There's just a whole lot of things simmering around.
Yeah.
I've sort of come a little way from being very individualistic, because I was heading down that path, and I realized actually a client had a great conversation with me about the importance of community and friendships and looking after each other and all of that. And so I'm really swinging back into that. But if I can just go to the individual side of things for a second, like your own experience, you're like, I didn't feel great at all. Just ask yourself as genuinely as you can, look in the mirror and just ask, as in your eyes, and just say like genuinely, how do I like my lifestyle? When I wake up in the morning and the things that I do, how do I feel? Does that feel good? And how do I carry myself? Am I happy with my eating habits? Are they causing me stress, whether I'm under eating or overeating? Maybe we can go there first rather than worrying too much about the size. Let's look at the lifestyle habits. What's my stress like? Am I answering work emails at 3 a.m. in the morning? You know, what am I smoking? Am I doing and why am I doing these things?
Right.
Why am I doing these things?
Right.
So potentially just looking at that for yourself and having a really honest look at yourself in terms of what's happening upstairs in your brain and starting with that. And again, like, let's try and lose the self-worth and the worth. It's nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
Just how do you want to carry yourself during the day? And are you living up to, you know, are you feeling fulfilled? Are there multiple things you can't do because of your eating habits or your size? It's like, you know, I have some clients who really struggle to eat out socially because of restricted mindset. Whereas with someone who might be overweight, it's like, Farah, I can't run after my dog. I can't go play with my dog. Like, just have a think about you know, what's happening for you, and then baby step. If you need to baby step, I mean, some people can just leap. Like, some people can leap, but some people just need to take baby steps in a direction that they'd rather be going in.
Yeah. Interesting. I think it's I think everything starts with good like the road to hell is paved with good intentions. So it's like it starts off that way. Then it's like, where are we going? What's happening?
I agree with it so much. And this is where like having your own set of values, your own moral compass can be really important, or maybe a family unit. Like if you've got a family unit, like what do we stand for?
Yeah.
So you can also look at, say, you know, leaders and go, I appreciate what they're saying here, and I don't really appreciate that, you know, rather than, again, blanket, no, this person's bad. It's like, actually, they've got some good points here, and there's some other points that I don't agree with. Yeah. But we're not being led by a person or an ideology or something like that. I think sometimes we can get really into a lot of trouble when we start identifying with those particular things. Yeah. It's like, is it Rebel Wilson lost a whole lot of weight and people are angry at her for doing that, you know?
Even Adele.
Yeah, Adele, lots of backlash. And it's like, if you attach part of your identity to Adele or to Rebel Wilson and then they change, what happens to you?
Yeah, you feel abandoned. You feel left.
Right.
Yeah.
So how about we work on your moral compass?
Yeah, and I think it's also like people just, like, I don't know, I find it interesting. They're like, oh, she looked better when she was bigger. And it's like, what? Not saying she's big. It's just people really can't grasp the fact that and I like how you said their identity is attached to that, right? And I guess that's why we like certain musicians, is because they represent a part of us that we couldn't express, or you're seeing them like, oh, I never thought a woman my size would actually make it. But it's also just crazy how people want to be outraged, people want to be offended, and they'll find any reason to do so. But yeah, it's unfortunate, but I hope the pendulum swings back to like logic, and that, because that's what usually happens in the day.
Dude, I feel like it's come back to fucking heroin chic though.
I know. And then it's like, you know, like, I don't know. Okay. Fuck. So it's so weird. Is it weird being in between two trends? Like, we started off with one trend, then we saw the Kardashian trend, then we're going back. I've never been in like, one day people were making fun of my ass, and then the next day they're like, how much do you squat? Yeah. And then, is it real? And you're like, what the actual fuck? And how these women have completely brainwashed a whole generation of women and also gaslighting us to think that it's actually because it's your fault, you're not working out hard enough. Remember how she was like, you just need to work hard. Yeah. That's all you have to do. And you're like, no, you need a good cosmetic surgeon. Yeah.
Yeah, dude. And again, this is why, like, I see this happen too with even like, oh, my idol does powerlifting, but now she's gone over to competing, and I was like so against competing, and it can shatter people. And it's like, man, you've really got to, like, it's okay to be inspired by people and to admire people, but you've really just got to come back to what are you doing for you? And I think Instagram is an interesting one, or social media. What are you, if Instagram wasn't here, would you still be doing this thing it's unfortunately we have to ask ourselves these things.
Yeah.
If you can't post about it, does it still appeal to you?
Yeah. Yeah. Right. It's like, yeah, that's actually so good. That's really good to think about, because even, you know, there's some days where I'm very happy with the workouts I'm doing, but then you just see a thing, you're like, oh, I'm going to try that. That looks really cool. And then next minute you have a sore shoulder and you have no idea why, what the fuck you were doing in there. Yeah. And it's those ones because our attention span is really short. Like we're no longer long-term thinkers, especially in our, like this day and age. People are not thinking, okay, in a year and 2 years. They're like, no, I see a girl with my dream body who's doing this. And then she switches. So I'm going to switch. And I don't know why. Yeah. Because a lot of these girls on Instagram, they're not like you, where it's like, I'm going to explain all these reasons. I'm going to explain my journey. I'm going to explain sort of the wider aspect to this fitness journey that we're all on, as to just one workout, boom, that's it. And like snap back after like having 3 kids. And you're like, even like that pressure of even coming back. Like, I don't know. You said you don't have clients who like gravitate towards that sort of mindset. Yeah. But do you have like mums who want to, like, is there a pressure? Do you feel like, do you get those kind of kinds?
Actually, not so much, but I definitely know it exists. I definitely know it exists for sure. And it's like one thing I might say, sometimes my clients might feel like guilty for missing some sessions or whatever. Yeah. And I say, let's zoom out. Hopefully you're going to be training for another 40, 50, 60 years. Yeah. So can you just put this one day into perspective? The other thing I like to do is look back. Can you remember the sessions you missed last year? Can you tell me the impact that had on you today? Right. And they're like, I've got no fucking idea. I've got no fucking idea. Yes, you don't care. It doesn't matter. It does not matter.
That is really good.
Again, I like to come to the thought process of why we're trying to do something. If we want a quick result, again, is it because we're feeling like we're losing control of our body, or we lost control of our body having a kid? And again, I'm not a mum, so I don't understand this experience. I'm not going to do it justice at all, but I could appreciate that having to put another little human first above you would be really a mindfuck, especially if you love training. I actually coach quite a number of women who were with me pre-pregnancy and then come back after, and some of them will say, like, I just, even to get 30 minutes at the gym by myself is the most amazing thing in the world. Right. But again, they've been training with me previously, so that there's just not this rush. It's more like, I want to train for the rest of my life. So me getting into the gym, whether it's 2 times a week or 3 or 4, it doesn't really matter. I like training. I am a person, and actually it's the identity of I train. I'm a woman who lifts. It's very different to I'm a woman who wants a 6-pack very, like, short term. Right. I'm a woman who lifts. 2 different people. Right.
And do you think abs are made in the kitchen? I have to ask that.
So genetics, for most people, we have to get to a very lean body fat percentage, or low body fat percentage. In the kitchen, people, when they say that, it just means like energy in, energy out. We have, you typically be in a deficit. Yeah. Okay. Do we want to hypertrophy? Do we want to hypertrophy through here? Genetically, it depends. Some people can rip at a higher body fat percentage. Some need to get very lean. Some people don't have much muscle mass here, that if we build it up, that we might see it a little bit better.
Right. So would you? So should you, like? How do I say it? Like, I think I'm just asking because I've just started training abs, and I'm sure people will be listening would be like, everyone wants abs. Like, as much as we're like, yeah, I'm fine. A lot of people would like abs. What it takes to get it is maybe what people are not willing to do, because some people at a low fat percentage are not. Like you said, you could be more sluggish, or you might actually not like how you look because you're just really, really lean. But I use like weights. Like, I actually progressively overload on like crunches or leg lifts or whatever. I don't know what they call it. I call them leg lifts. But, but do you feel like that's also important to kind of build those ab muscles? Or?
For sure. And, we're going to be training them through the big compound lifts anyway for stability. We're going to need to use them to stabilize.
Yeah.
Again, and then it can be genetically. Like if we've got a competitor, no, I don't coach competitors, but if we've got a competitor, do we actually need to hypertrophy through the core to get them to a different, to show more?
Right.
You would know when you get someone lean enough genetically where they sit to know if you need to do that. Some people don't have to train abs at all. They're just genetically, it's just there. Maybe they played sport when they were a kid, right?
Bastards.
But in terms of training for stability can be really important, especially for mums too. Can be really important to get back into some kind of ab movements for sure. So yeah, it's an interesting one. Like for me, I don't have abs just existing. I may on comp day. Very, very fleeting. So for me, it's an interesting one. Like, I don't care for them. Because I know what it's going to take. And I cannot sustain that. It's incredibly unsustainably for me and my genetics and the way I am. Again, like I was talking about those high school girls who are, track and field athletes. Like they're amazing. They're just amazing athletes. And for a lot of them, genetically, they were going through thousands of calories of food with huge chiseled abs.
Right.
There's going to be a genetic component of that too. So I would say, again, it's like I get it wanting to sculpt a physique. It's fun. I totally understand that. There might come a point in time where you have to go like genetically, this is not going to be something that's going to be on the cards. It's like for me, I can't grow another couple of inches. It's never going to be the case. So me longing after fucking long limbs, like I see these stupid workouts, increase your muscle length or like what? Ballet long limbs. I'm sorry. No, it's just the stupidest thing. Like we have our, origin and insertions of the muscle. That's genetic.
Yeah.
You can't fucking change that.
You can't change that.
You can hypertrophy things.
Yeah.
That's about it.
Yeah, you can grow them but not expand them. You can't.
That's right. And it's like, especially with, this is the other thing with physique athletes, man, if you don't have the genetics, you might be able to get, top 20 in the world or top 10, but maybe you'll never win if you don't have those really nice insertions. It's bad fucking luck.
Yeah.
Bad luck.
Yeah. No, it is. And it's also, I guess, switching that mindset and saying, well, what do I have that I'm genetically gifted with as well, right? And turning and being like, well, there's some people like, well, I might not have to train my arms as much because my biceps just pop like that. So let me just focus on that and knowing that I've been gifted with that instead of, why can't I get this? Why can't I get that? And also just understanding that you can't spot reduce anything, really. People are like, oh, like even doing like bench presses, people are like, oh, I will lose fat just in that area. And it's like,
no.
What? No, because then I would be doing squats all the time and I would have the tiniest legs, right?
Yeah, man. I get that with like arm stuff. Like, how do I, my triceps? And it's like, we just got to be in an energy deficit. Yeah, but the exercises. And it's like, I can give you some exercises. It's going to build the muscle mass there. Yeah. Is that what you want? No. Okay, so let's go back to the energy deficit.
Yeah. So then how's, just coming back to your prep, how's prep going for you?
So I don't start until 4 weeks. So what happened to me was I was 12 weeks in and then they cancelled, the whole federation went under.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. So I wanted to compete with a women's federation up in Brisbane. It's the same people I competed with first time last year. It was an amazing experience. Like athlete care was really high. So I got 12 weeks into the prep. Everything was going really smooth sailing. And then the whole thing got cancelled. So my show will now be on May the 6th next year, and I'm starting prep I think December the 12th. They had me in a conservative growth phase for the past 3 months or whatever.
Right.
We're going to do now from Monday 4 weeks at maintenance, so just get me just chilling again at maintenance. Then I think we'll go into a fairly aggressive deficit. It's really cool if you're an athlete to try and get the body fat off pretty quickly.
Okay.
So potentially this is like the dream. It doesn't happen for everyone to eat into a show, because if we get to eat into a show, like eating carbohydrates into a show, for a few weeks, and we're starting to fill up the muscle.
Yeah, right.
But we're also going to look really quite vibrant on stage,
right.
Vibrant and healthy. Plus, we're starting to, mitigate some of the hormonal issues that might have come from the deficit.
Okay.
Do I think that that's going to be the case for me? I'm actually not sure that I'm going to be able to do that. But that would be the ultimate goal. You kind of go hard and fast first for an athlete, for a competitive athlete who doesn't have any mindset fucking shit around food. Like, to me, really, there's no emotional attachment. Like, I'll eat what I need to eat. I like food. Like, it tastes nice, and I like to eat like donuts and chocolate and whatever. But I can turn it on and off. Like, if I need to do something for a comp, it's fine.
Oh yeah. Which is ideal, really. That's what it's for. It's not for to exacerbate all your insecurities and to mindfuck you in like 5 months.
Yes. So last time it was not this.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So very different place.
Do you find it harder? So is this your first one ever since that
It's
one?
first one ever since, but I did do a fairly aggressive deficit in the first part of lockdown,
right?
Which was really good.
Yeah,
really good. Yeah. So my coach has said to me, he's like, "Aim, it will get hard, like, because we had such a good 12-week run in," and he's like, "I know it's been good, but like, I just want to tell you, like, it is gonna get a little bit hard." And it's like, yeah, I know, like, I know, I'm gonna be hungry and tired and all those sorts of things. Yeah. But I think just working together so consistently for so long, like, I think I've missed in 6 years, maybe 3 Christmas check-ins.
Right.
Otherwise, I've just checked in consistently weekly with my coach. Like, this is what I mean by consistency. And I don't mean everyone needs to check in with their coach for 6 years. But for me, there's some method of mindfulness every week.
Right.
And it's like, yeah, maybe we'll take a holiday, but it's, we're thinking about it strategically, like, I'm going to take this time off and I'm not going to train and all of those sorts of things. That's totally fine. But my identity doesn't shift. I'm not now I don't train.
So how are you on holiday? Like, so how, like, now people will be going on holidays as well. So how do you maintain during the holiday season? And like, how does that look like for you, especially for someone who has sort of kind of come out of the other side of that negative sort of food guilt sort of mindset,
Yeah, it's weird. I don't see that the holidays are anything different for me. My family eats very simply. Like, it's so funny. Like, I have Christmas with Mum, and sort of for health reasons for her, it will be like some meat and salad, and then she'll make a cake. So very simple stuff. But again, once we've got this good food, bad food, once it's legitimately gone, once we've got no issues with food and all those sorts of things, it's like it's a normal day. And if I want to have a piece of Christmas cake, I will, and whatever, it doesn't really matter. What do I tell my clients around Christmas who aren't quite there yet? It really depends. There are multiple strategies we can use to help manage someone's intake, especially if they're in a fat loss phase, right? If they're fucking not, please don't be tracking on Christmas Day. Don't track on Boxing Day. God. Take a week off the gym if you want. Take 2 weeks off the gym if you would like. Just chill. But for the people who might be in a fat loss phase, typically I try and schedule refeed periods or diet break weeks across Christmas. If I hear someone wanting to track on Christmas, it's a bit of a red flag to me. So just ask, talk me through, why, blah, 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 and we work through that. I'd rather someone not. We just don't need to be doing it. And there's multiple different strategies for a fat loss phase. Again, whether we just plan strategic refeeds over Christmas Day or we do like high and low days, like some calorie cycling. Maybe we increase steps a little bit. There's lots of different things we can do. But I'm super chill, man. Like, you can't break something. Like, you can't break your body in like a week of like eating a little bit extra. No. The scale might go up a little bit. Not too much of it's going to be body fat. It's just, it's so part of that relaxed. Bigger picture. like how you said that, like last year, remember the days you missed, and I love that. That gives me such like it makes me feel so much better already. Like I think it's something that everyone should sort of have that mindset. Same thing as eating, same thing as Christmases, same thing as I think the reason why I mentioned Christmas is not really to be counting calories or anything, but I find it really easy to eat my protein first. Like, I really enjoy that. I just go, it's a barbecue. I'm going to have my lamb. I'm going to have my chicken. I enjoy that first. And then by the time you're done, you're just like, I'm so full. And then if you want to enjoy anything else, you can. But I feel like I've gotten my protein that I've needed. And then after that, anything that I eat, I don't feel as bad because I'm just like, I've hit my macros for my protein. So I'm sweet. So and even that, like, 1 day, 2 days.
Who cares?
Honestly, I'm so chill. So chill. Sometimes my clients, they're perfectionists, high achievers, and sometimes I do have to mitigate my chillness and give them something. Like, maybe it's just something.
Rattle the feathers
it's
of it.
just something to, so that they can do it perfectly and tick their box. But the reality of it is, all of this is ranges anyway. your deficit number is not a number, it's a range. Your maintenance is not a number, it's a range.
Range,
Your surplus
yeah.
is a range. It's all a fucking range.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then female hormonal profile, add that into the mix.
Yeah.
You know, during that second part of the cycle, we're burning potentially up to an extra 300 calories a day.
Right.
Like, just chill. Like, just chill. Just chill.
Right. I'd like to actually get more into that, just because a lot of my either colleagues or friends that do exercise don't understand that menstrual cycle, don't get the two phases as well. Yeah. So is there a way you can explain to them just how that works?
Yeah. So if we're looking at a textbook menstrual cycle, we'll just go with 28 days. We have the follicular phase initially, and then we have the luteal phase. In the middle of that, we've got ovulation, make it day 14. And then period starts on day 1. So I didn't used to know this when I was in high school, like what was day 1? Was it the end of your period? No, the first day you bleed is day 1. So within that, the 14 days of that luteal phase textbook, we're going to see body temperature increase a little bit. At the start of that, we see testosterone rise a little bit briefly, and we see metabolic rate increase maybe by up to 300 calories. But the thing is, we also see some instability in blood sugar, which means we are going to be typically craving different foods and maybe high-fat, high-sugar foods during that period of time. So our metabolism has increased a little bit, but our desire for food also increases. And this is where some people can really get themselves in a bit of a bind because, yes, okay, we're getting an increase in metabolic rate, so I can eat more, but I'm craving more, so I actually then surpass that extra 300 calories that I might have been able to eat, and I then overeat. Right? So that desire for food in that last 2 weeks can be quite strong, and we can want to eat more than the that extra burn that we're getting, okay? So there's also some water retention issues. So we basically get that within two days to about 4 days of our period starting, we'll see our lowest water retention. So day 2 to day 4, day 5 of a period, when we stand on a scale, if we're in a maintenance phase, we'll see our lightest weight for the month, okay? Then the week 2, we'll see it rise a little bit. Week 3, we'll see it come down a little bit. Week 4, it's going to skyrocket.
Right.
Okay.
And how does training look like in those phases?
So training during the follicular phase, that first part is probably going to feel a little bit better actually. You know how people talk about don't train on your period. It's bullshit. You actually might have really good sessions on your period depending on, like, let's just be real, flow can very much impact what you're wearing and not being comfortable. Okay, so I get that. But in terms of when we're primed to build, we've got a more estrogen dominant phase in that first follicular phase, which is actually really good for building muscle.
Right.
Estrogen gets a bad rap. It's really good for building muscle and recovery. Okay, so that's pretty good time to train and to kind of go nuts if you like. During the luteal phase, again, it's so different between individuals, but things can be a little bit more challenging during that stage, and we're not actually utilizing carbohydrates as well for fuel during that stage. We're actually utilizing fats a little bit more. So we might find, you know, that sort of quick work, that like high intensity sort of work, even like just a few reps, maybe 3 reps of something feeling pretty hard and pretty heavy during those times. Should you program around your cycle? I recommend highly do not, because who's a robot? Who is doing this thing consistently? Who has a consistent 28-day cycle? I wouldn't bother. I wouldn't bother. I would do something called auto-regulate. Have you heard of auto? It just means when you come into the gym, just say you're working within a couple of reps of failure, 2, 3, whatever, do that on the day as best as you possibly can, and don't concern yourself too much if the weight has to be a bit lighter.
Right.
If you're legitimately within 2 reps of failure, you've done your job.
Right.
If it's a little bit lighter than last week, maybe you're in your luteal phase and things are harder. It's okay. It's not going to be the end of the world. So this is called auto-regulation, where you just regulate your own training sessions. You know what failure looks like. You understand working just a few reps shy of that.
Right.
You come in and do that as best as you can.
Yeah, right. Yeah, no, good to know. I mean, I feel like I hit my PBs right after my period. My leg sesh is like
there you go,
smashed. It's
so
awesome.
That's actually textbook. Yeah, that's actually textbook. Not everyone is, and it's okay if you're not.
Yeah.
So some people might be listening to this and like, oh no, my water retention is here and here and here. Hormonal birth control changes this completely, so it goes out the window.
Right. And how does that change? Just I know we're kind of going off a tangent here, but how does being on on the contraceptives? Is it
So there's many different versions of pills,
Yeah.
and I haven't presented on this for a long time, so I'm going to be a bit...
No, it's all right.
Yeah, but there's many different versions of pills, and they all impact each person very differently. Okay,
Yeah,
so
right.
the research, you know how there's like this thing of the pill, it gives you makes you gain weight.
Yeah.
Not in all the circumstances. Research actually doesn't show that.
Okay.
Research actually doesn't show that, but it can. Some people gain like 20 to 30 kilos. Some people lose weight on the pill. In terms of training, we can unfortunately... Okay, I need to start that again. There was a meta-analysis done, I think in 2019, that was looking at all of the research papers in terms of hormonal birth control on muscle mass. Not that many, and a lot of them are terrible. So the meta-analysis noted that a lot of the studies were very poorly done. They were using pills that weren't even the same. They were using groups of women on different hormonal contraceptives in their research papers. Right, it was just a mess. But what they did find, it may have a slight impact on training performance long term if you're on hormonal contraceptive. It may negative impact. Okay. So what I said to my ladies after I was reading this paper was, and listening to people who know what they're talking about in this field, because I'm not specifically qualified medically to deal with this stuff, but I can just read. Is if you need to be on the pill for, again, I'm not qualified, but like endometriosis or heavy periods or whatever.
PCOS and all that.
And mental health too. Like for some women, it's just horrendous, and the pill has helped them a lot. Just, you don't worry about your muscle mass, man. You need to consider your mental health. Like you talk to your doctor and do that. If you're an athlete, if you were trying to be an elite level athlete, there may definitely be a need to not be on it. Right. Especially for women who have high levels of testosterone, especially women with PCOS with high levels of testosterone. We often find that they can actually gravitate towards the elite athlete status because of that elevated testosterone. They're kind of beating the other women.
Right.
So I have said to my ladies before, I know PCOS is not fun. At the same time, you might have a little bit of an athletic advantage here, okay, with that extra testosterone, okay? And there was, this is an anecdotal piece of evidence, but there was a really well-known coach, Lyle McDonald, researcher. He's amazing. He's written a book called The Women's Book. It's amazing. But he had an elite level powerlifting client who had PCOS, went on the pill, and actually her progress notably declined for 2 years whilst on the pill, came off it, and then was able to continue to progress again. And again, anecdotal, he thought potentially it was the impact of her testosterone from taking the pill, which brought it down. So it's really interesting. So again, I would consider your circumstances. Do you need it for contraception?
Yeah.
Do you need it for your mental health?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it seems like maybe there might be some health issues with the pill that is starting to come out. I don't know what's true, and I don't know what, again, is outrage culture. Just consider your own circumstances. Right. Don't worry about your muscle mass unless you're an elite level athlete getting paid, because then maybe it's your house that you need to support.
Yeah, no, that's very, very interesting. I mean, I like how you say prioritize health first and prioritize your actual, like, if it's a dire situation and you need to do it, like, fuck your muscles, really. Obviously not fully, like, still try and be healthy and exercise, but not make it your main priority. But then do you have like a gym phase that you wish you skipped? When you start off with the gym, and you're like, you look back, you're like for me, I can start and say mine was overtraining. Like I think I was doing legs like 5 days. Oh, it's ridiculous. And then I had a specific glute day, and then maybe one arm day.
Yeah, man. Mine would just be my shyness, and I just did classes for a couple of years because I was too scared to go into the weight section at the gym I ended up coaching at, which is hilarious. But I was just so shy, so I just did the classes, and I wish, man, like the muscle mass I might have had. Do you know what I mean? Like
the
if I had,
gains.
because that was like 20, I think it was 2021, you know, I'm 35, like that would have been years.
Yeah.
So I wish I had just gotten a PT session. I didn't value it. I thought it was too expensive back then. And fair, actually, I was at uni, so it would have been maybe half my wage. So that probably was a bit expensive. But you can get some free sessions. You can get a free program written for you at most of the big box gyms. You get 3 free sessions.
And do you think they're good though? Like what are like, I don't know. I find it hard to follow a PT who doesn't have a PT body. Like, I'm sorry, like physique, you know, he's just chilling there.
Yeah.
Chewing his gum. Like, yeah. 2 more.
Yeah. Dude, I would scope out the gym floor. If a trainer's on their phone, if a trainer is distracted, walk away.
Yeah.
Go to the trainer who looks like they can't hear anyone else in the gym but their client.
Right.
Find them. You'll see it in their eyes.
Yeah.
They're locked on. They're intense.
Yeah.
Maybe their client's a little bit like, oh, that is the coach.
Yeah.
You know, the coach who just couldn't care less what's happening out in the world. And whilst the client is training, they're just locked on. They're looking at their feet. They're looking at their knee. They're just looking everywhere. They're walking around consistently whilst their client is moving.
Right.
That's the coach.
Right. And what about their actual training? Like, do you feel like they need to, you know, I just feel like I will never hire a PT or a coach who isn't training themselves.
Training, definitely. They have to be trained themselves. Do they need to be ripped? No. If you want to get ripped, I would love to have seen them maybe have done it once.
Yeah, right. Okay.
Yeah.
That's
maybe
what I
have
was
done
asking.
it once.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Because
know.
there are some things that come up, especially emotionally sometimes, that we've all got different experiences, but potentially they can relate to if they've done it themselves.
Yeah.
That a person just would have no, like if I've never competed, I've actually coaching one of my clients to a same comp that I'm doing.
Yeah.
She's turned into my best friend. We've been working together for 2 years. I'm not taking anyone else. I don't advertise it. It's just because we're so close, and she's a fucking robot. She'll do anything I say, so I trust her. But would I do that if I hadn't competed before? Probably not. You know, I just wouldn't know what it's like to get that lean and then to be able to deal with the emotions of that, because she's going to have some major anxiety attacks probably. There's going to be a bit of body dysmorphia. It happens. It's normal. It happens to every athlete. If I didn't go through that myself, maybe I'd be nervous in how to approach that. Now I haven't gone through myself. I just said it last week. Shut up. I don't care.
Yeah.
This is the data. I'm working with this. I don't know what you're seeing. And quite frankly, I don't care.
Yeah.
This is it. You worry about getting your gym sessions done. You let me worry about this.
Yeah.
Okay?
And what is she competing for?
Bikini. Same thing. Yeah. Same day, actually.
Yeah. Wow. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And would you do bodybuilding?
No, man. Nah.
Hectic,
so
man.
personally, like I have a private Instagram account and I follow the figure and physique girls. Visually, I fucking love it. I don't have the work ethic. I don't want to dedicate much more time and effort to it. I'd also have to take PTs. So there's things I don't want to do. But visually, those women, I fucking love watching them move.
Yeah.
I just love watching them pose. I love it.
Yeah.
Personally, nah, I don't.
Yeah.
I don't.
I think it's at what cost too, right?
Yeah, for sure.
You know,
sure.
if you know the life you want, you becoming the person you've wanted to be, that training doesn't really fit in. If you said I want to look like that, then I'll be happy, like what we're talking about initially.
Yeah.
Then you'll be just dying to get there.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. So they do. So a lot of them do take PEDs.
Oh,
right?
Dude, bikini.
I just want to let
even
people know.
IFBB bikini, it's rampant.
Really?
Yeah, I guess this is something I didn't know either when I first started. I thought these are all natural, and I said to my coach one day on the gym floor, why don't I look like her? We had a competitor, and he's like, Aim, there's assistance happening. And I was like, what do you mean? And he was like, she's taking drugs. Like, you can tell. And I was like, oh, shit. And it's so obvious now, but yeah, it was a big thing, and I used to get very upset. I'm not working hard enough. I'm not eating my food. And it's like, yeah, I'm doing everything. It's just genetically, this is what I got, right?
Yeah, right.
A lot of them are. If someone is a competitor, it doesn't mean they're definitely taking something, but take the physique with a grain of salt. You don't know their mental state. You don't know what they're taking. You don't know what their lifestyle actually looks like, no matter what they're showing or what they're saying.
Yeah.
A lot of people can't say because of sponsorships too.
Right, and I think it's also it's sort of kind of ends up being a really private community. So they only tell each other that all the shit that
There's
they're
a bit
doing.
of stigma too. A lot of people think it's cheating and those sorts of things. I've got to admit, like, my mind has changed on PED. So at first I was really like, they're cheating and the more I started to watch, like, even like the male bodybuilders who are like competing at the Olympia and stuff, like.
Yeah.
Just their work ethic, their mentality.
You still have to train hard.
Man, like these guys they're amazing, and some of them are running big businesses, big companies as well. Like, I really admire them, and it really changed my mind about PED use and just my judgment of people who take PEDs. I do judge people who take them and then say they don't. Fuck you.
Fuck that. I fucking hate that. And you know what? The thing is that a lot of people who don't know, like I went down a rabbit hole of like PEDs to really see what the fuck's going on. Even like superheroes, you're looking at, Marvel characters like Thor, you're like, why don't I look like that? Even though they're selling their programs and they're saying that you're going to look like me if you fucking do this and that. And I'm like, no, you piece of shit. Like you're making all these people buy your shit, first of all, but also give them the worst self-esteem, thinking they have the worst genetics, when it's like, no, you most likely have maybe pretty decent genetics. You just kind of took it to the next level. And a lot of also these women, like what you're saying, I didn't know they were on PEDs until I found out. Then I was like, oh my God. It's like someone finding out someone's boobs are fake or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, I'm trying to...
Yeah, I completely agree with you.
It's just, yeah.
There's even some women who will, men to just take a whole lot of photos and then just post those photos continually throughout the year, so you think they're shredded year round. They're not. It's just old photos.
Right. Yeah.
I actually had a dietitian on my podcast the other day, and she said, if anything starts out with "do this, look like me," run.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Like, you're gonna look like you, maybe different, maybe quote unquote better. But if anything sells you, do this to look like me. No. Nah. Because you never will. No, you're not them.
You never will. Yeah. Fuck. Well, I mean, this has been amazing getting to know you, hearing your thoughts on different things. I've learned heaps as well. Can't wait to hear it back. And actually, I should be taking notes. I don't know.
Do you watch the Lex Friedman podcast?
Yes.
Do you know how he gets his...
He is amazing with his suit as well.
And you know what? Again, like, just coming back to the B, he's spoken about why he wears that suit and the mind frame it gets him in, and having that professional touch to his channel. I love that. Yeah. And he's just so, like, he's a bit dorky at the same time. I love him so much. I know. And he's just like, and he's serious, but he's not. He's a legend. But yeah, thank you so much. So could you tell people where they can find you, about your program, and Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure. I need to remember my Insta handle because I just changed it. So it's at @the_female physique hub. Yeah. My name is Amy. That's where you can find me best. I do have an online coaching program called the Glam Body Program. If you love training and you want some sort of physique result, hop into my DMs and I would love to support you there. Yeah. And then you also have a Fit and Free podcast as well. Yeah. Yes. What is the handle? @fitandfree.podcast. Yeah. Gosh. Yeah, it is. Because the podcast title is Fit and Free with Aim. Oh my God. Yeah. I'm pretty sure, but I'll leave all the handles on there anyway, so you can go and do it. But yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. And yeah, hopefully we'll see you next time. Good luck with the competition. I know you're going to start in December. 4 weeks. Yeah. And yeah, have a great Christmas, New Year's, everything. And yeah, I'll let you know when it launches. Thank you so much. Thank you.